What's going on, everybody? Mezariah here, and I'm back with another video. Today's video, I want to get into something really personal. Before we start this video, please like, subscribe, comment, interact with this video, and please share it with anyone that you feel that you need to share it with. This is going to be somewhat of a shorter video than my usual videos, and I want to speak on they don't know what you have gone through, and this is a very personal subject for me, but I know this is a word for a lot of different people because it's true in a lot of our lives. A lot of people don't really understand what we had to go through to get to where we are, and that place that we are is not necessarily physically, aesthetically pleasing or anything like that. It's just that place of peace that we've gotten to, and a lot of us have dealt with silent wars in our own lives, and some people don't realize how great it is and how great it was to go through those things. And I was a kid that grew up really quiet, and I had this disorder called selective mutism, and I was just really reserved, and I didn't say too much. I had a lot of anxiety in me, and in order for me to get to where I had to go through, to get to where I had to be, or had to the things that I had to go through to get to where I am in this place of peace, God allowed me to go through a lot of different afflictions at the hands of other people. And this was more like a silent war, I feel like, that I had to go through. And that's what a lot of us had to go through, this silent fight that a lot of people go through. But it's like, for us, it didn't destroy us. You know what I mean? A lot of people go through these silent wars and they break and they crumble and they don't know how to bounce back. They don't know how to be resilient. Some of us went through so much humiliation, so much rejection, so much of this of a huge target on our back, and we didn't understand how to get through it at first, but we got through it, and we undermined it how big it was because of how many people undermined it. They minimized it and they looked at it as if it was nothing to be happy about. You know what I mean? These things like this are huge feats in our life. You know what I mean? We conquered some things that a lot of people wouldn't be able to conquer because of their ego and their pride or whatever that is keeping them from getting to the next level. And they don't know what we have gone through. We can be so close to people, right next to people, living a whole completely different life than a person that's next to us, than certain family members. You grow up in a house with people, you're friends with people, and they don't really know you as if that like they think they do. You know what I mean? Inwardly you're fighting a war they would never know anything about because they don't have the power to go through what you go through. And this is not to put any of us on this pedestal because we all have our fights, we all have our things that we go through. You know what I mean? So it's like we looked at life differently, and the things they think they could have went through in our shoes, they would have never been able to go through it. You know what I mean? This just goes back to like when people look at you, right, and they look at you and they probably jealous for the looking at how you move through life and or whatever, however they're perceiving you, and then they end up wanting your life, and it's like you don't know anything that I've gone through, because if you did, you wouldn't want to go through anything that I've gone through. And we even forget ourselves because certain things go unsettled with our own personal issues. You see, we we become our own worst enemy because of how people view us, and we tend to put ourselves in the back burner because of how they tell us to go about whatever we go through. So a lot of us grew up in that environment where we were misunderstood. We didn't know how important our journeys were, and we didn't have any self-worth, or we didn't have any value to ourselves. And it's interesting because some of us could have been accepted by our families. I felt like I was accepted to some degree in my family. I'm not going to act like I was, a person that was so rejected by my family, but I knew I was different. I was misunderstood all the time. People didn't understand what I wanted them to understand. People didn't understand my personality. People didn't understand my journey and my walk with Christ, just like most people don't understand because they are in their own world. But we have lived that life where that misunderstanding was enough for us to realize that nobody actually understands what any of us actually go through on a daily basis. And some of the times it breaks us because we want people to understand us. And sometimes we don't get that. We don't understand it because the world is so filled with people in their own egos. They are filled with the things that they go through. And you have to get to that point where you realize that it's not about you. This is why we have purpose, and this is why we are to serve others through so many different means. We grown with people that only think about what they've gone through, and that's why they can't understand or empathize with you go through. You see, it's always an ego attached to everything. There's always a pride thing attached to some people, and some people are so operative in that space of ego and pride. It makes no room for God to dwell in there because your ego takes up space where God cannot dwell in your temple. And that goes for the people that we know we were close to at some point. And that's why they don't empathize. That's why they don't see. They think that you have magically gotten everything that you wanted, and it's like they really don't understand the fight that you had to put up. And it's such an unfortunate thing because we look at stories like David when he was secretly crying out to God because of all of the people afflicting him, and that was his personal relationship with God. And we have that personal relationship with God where we fight our battles differently. So it looks like we don't go through anything. It looks like we haven't dealt with anything in life. And little do they know that we've dealt with more than they can ever imagine. It's so, I can imagine how humbling of an experience that is to anybody on the other side of that, figuring out that, wow, some people actually do live a life that we have no idea about, and we're within 2 feet of them, and we've known them our whole lives. That's a humbling experience. It shows you how we really don't know other people and what they go through. It No matter how close you are to them, we have our own problems, we have our own issues and our own traumas, and no matter how much you feel like you've told people what you had to experience or what you had to go through. And not only that, it's how you deal with it. I've always stated people don't understand what you go through because of how you deal with it. And some of us want to prove to people that we've got this, we worked through this, we conquered this, and we're strong, and we survived this and we survived that. But when we were younger, we knew how to deal with things. Some of us could have been emotionally mature, and we didn't let things get to us. We were built differently, and so when we get to a older age, probably it's like people still don't get to see all of what you actually endured mentally, inwardly. You know what I mean? So they start to think, well, they haven't gone through anything. They haven't dealt with anything. You've been spoiled all your life, and you've been given a silver platter in your mouth, your way. You have been a Cosby kid. You grew up this. You grew up that. You didn't have to struggle like this. You didn't have to struggle like that, and that's an unfortunate perception of a lot of people of how they look at us sometimes. No matter what background you come from, that perception can be on you, no matter what background. And it's sad because now we have to put our problems to the side and put no value into who we are, because now we don't fight for anything. The story that we've made for ourselves, nobody cares that we have actually fought for something. Nobody ever thought that we have had to fight for anything. Nobody can see what we've gone through behind the scenes in the work that we've put in, because they don't care to see, or they just don't see out of ignorance. They don't see out of ignorance. So it's like, how how do we get to this place of letting go and living for invalid not living for validation, for human validation? And I think what God does, he does that on purpose, because it goes to show you how humans do not care, and how we should never fight for human validation. That's the lesson out of all of that, because God wants your attention. He wants you to have his validation. You see? And he'll allow you to keep being disappointed by humans, no matter how many times that you have proven yourself to be strong and to be courageous and brave. He wants your attention and focus, and your effort to be validated by him, not by humans. So he will continuously disappoint you, let you be disappointed by the perception of humans, by the doing of humans, and through any means. So whatever you're trying to be validated by, he will allow you to keep you, he will allow you to be disappointed to keep you from essentially idol worship, because that's what you want. That's a lot of people wanted at one point, even me. You want people to validate you, and that turns into idol worship. See, it's just a process of things. It's just a line of things. When you are idolizing people, you want their validation. You want them to prove, or you want to prove yourself to them so they can love you more, so they can, you know, not reject you. And lo and behold, that's the power that you want to give God. You want to give God that so he can do what he does as God. When you give him that worship, that reverence, and that love that you want from those humans, or that you want to give to those humans, then he'll start to work. He'll start to be the God in your life, instead of you wanting another human to be a God in your life. See, and a lot of the things that we go through always leads back to some type of sin. And idol worship is one great sin that God hates. So when we start to see the things that we go through are sometimes other people, but then it is the accountability that we have to take. Even if we were ignorant to this knowledge at one point, we have to understand that all reverence and all power goes to God. If we want to be validated by somebody, and if we want to understand, if we want people to understand what we've gone through, we give all of that power, worship, and strength to God. And God will show you how protected a person is because of the love and strength that they have in God. You see, God will start to work for you, because believe it or not, you can be the hardest working person, one of the hardest working people in the world. And if you are working for a human's validation, God will continue to let you be disappointed by people, and he will never validate you, because you're not giving your power and strength to God. See, because people internally, they know how hard working we are. They know how much power we have, because it's evident through the fruits that we work by. It's evident on what we produce. It's evident on how any specific, any other thing, and whatever proves to them And they internally know that, because especially the ones that believe in God and put their worship in God, and they're hard workers, and they do all of these things outside of the the perception of people, and as opposed to the people that don't have reverence and worship for God, and they could be hard workers, but they are never going to get that validation that they want. They're always going to feel like they have to put on a facade or a front as if they are harder workers, and they could be, but they'll never feel satisfied because they're not giving their worship to God, but to humans. And it all goes back to God. Everything that we do goes back to God. And that's the point. We have to give all of us to God, for Him to exalt us, for Him to put us in position so people can see us as an example, so people can see the proof that God is actually real. You see? And everything everything goes back to Him. So that's it, guys. I'll be back with another video. That's it. That's all. I am out. And I hope that this edified you. I hope this helped you understand that you do have value. You do have a purpose. You do have a reason to believe that they don't know what you go through, because of how much work that you have put in behind the scenes, and all of the nights and the days and the hours, however long you've been putting work in for God and His kingdom. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They don't know. They don't know what you're going through. But it's okay to know and to recognize that they don't know what we go through. So I'm out, and I'll be back with another video.